What up, friends? It's been a while, and today we're going to be reviewing Illit's second mini-album, I'll Like You. This is the second project overall by K-pop girl group Illit. Illit just kind of came up out of the blue, just out of nowhere, and just smashed into the K-pop scene with their debut single Magnetic, released back in 2024. Now, of course, this shouldn't be too surprising, considering that they come with the backing of the K-pop company HYBE, one of the big four, but even so, it's just very surprising and very impressive how quickly they made a name for themselves, even with this huge backing. Illit's style isn't exactly new, however I do think it is very refreshing for the K-pop scene as a whole. Other groups like New Jeans, RIP, they also pulled from this sort of Y2K aesthetic that Illit was pulling from as well, but while New Jeans focuses more on like the sort of two-step and drum and bass directions, I find that Illit opts for more of the pop and house side of Y2K. It makes for a very snappy and satisfying sound, and although this album was released back in 2024 as well, Illit, starting with their debut mini-album and going into their newest mini-album that they put out this year, have continued to refine themselves and showcases how they are willing to experiment. Their debut mini-album, Super Real Me, is actually probably one of my favorite K-pop projects that I've heard in recent memory, and while this one isn't as solid, it does again showcase how they are willing to try something different and refine sounds that they've explored previously. I'll Like You is a very satisfying start to the mini-album overall, featuring a sort of two-step, jittery styled production and instrumental that also kind of reinforces and uses their vocal samplings and vocal distortion in a pretty fun way. I love that the background vocals are going for a sort of call and response style, and it just has a very carefree and whimsical vibe that I think is also reinforced by the synths in this one. The song in general is very delicate yet cheerful overall, and I think the vocals transitioning into the outro chant was also very well done. The lyrics are fairly repetitive, however, in true sort of dance music fashion, I do think this repetition actually helps drive the song forward. It keeps the rhythm going, and I like how they're also very confidently talking about this person that they are pursuing. I like the confidence expressed in the lyrics here. Cherish My Love is another solid track, and the obvious contender for a single here. The guitar backing is great, and the vocal melody is super catchy and captivating. It has a feeling of longing that I think fits their sound perfectly, and I like how the song steadily builds as the beat starts to kick in. The sort of staggered vocals that Illit does is something that I think they're known for, and something that I think they do very well, and it's just represented, again, very well here. I think this song also does a great job in showcasing each of the members' different vocal colors as well, especially when Minju delivers her If You Love Me or Not line. I think that's one of the most satisfying deliveries on this entire mini-album. It's just a song that has a warm and natural feeling to it thanks to that guitar backing alongside the confident dance beat. All of the songs are pretty short, to be honest. Illit songs especially tend to be pretty short, but this one really feels like it used all of its runtime. That, and I think the lyrics of not compromising on their love for this person, their affection, makes it even more endearing. If You Know You Know definitely has the biggest two-step and contemporary R&B influences on this project, however, I also think it's probably the weakest song on the mini. I do still like it, however, it feels noticeably low impact compared to the other tracks on this project. However, I will say that I really do like Iroha and Yuna's combo of the IYKYK and If You Know You Know sort of back and forth. Like, that's a fun dynamic. It flows pretty well, but I find the verses and pre-chorus to be noticeably less engaging compared to the chorus. They're a bit less interesting, a bit more flat, and I love Iroha, but I don't think her rap breakdown was very necessary to this song's sound. Illit in general, I don't think really need any rap breakdowns or anything like that, and I think it kind of betrays the softer vibe that they were going for here. The next track, Pimple, is kind of a sort of upbeat guitar ballad, if that makes any sense, and I quite like this one. It opts for a bittersweet vibe of a pretty bouncy beat, but also a downcast guitar that combines together surprisingly well. It's not doing anything crazy, however, I do think Yuna's very wistful and breathy tone fits the sound of this track a lot. The chorus is also really sweet, and again, the vocals on this track are great, and I think this one especially showcases how strong Illit's vocalists are as a core unit. It's pretty straightforward on the whole, with lyrics comparing love or a love interest to a pimple and how it can be kind of annoying, but you just kind of have to power through it. But again, I think it's pretty endearing. It's unique, if nothing else. Finally, we get to the last song, Tick-Tack, the best song on the project, and honestly one of their best songs, period, that would actually end up kind of becoming the blueprint for their sound going forward. The sort of chiptune accents on this one are just perfect for the sort of house and Y2K pop direction that they've been going with. It fits their dance sound so well, and the Tick-Tack onomatopoeia has to be the catchiest thing I've ever fucking heard. I really love the synth flourishes as the vocals just do their thing, and I think this sort of electronic sound actually fits the song as a whole surprisingly well, especially when we have lyrics that are seemingly talking about how you kind of curate your online persona to impress a crush or a person that you are interested in. You kind of create this ideal image to present to other people, not letting them know about your flaws. You know, it's toxic but relatable, and I think this also does show how everybody's kind of hiding something out of fear that other people won't respect you or reciprocate your feelings because of it. My only complaint is how criminally short this song is. Like, this shit should be twice as long. It's like the boppiest bop to ever be created. It's so good. This was yet another solid outing by Illit, albeit less strong than their debut mini-album Super Real Me. They definitely toned down that sort of like future housey inspiration that they had on Super Real Me, definitely in favor of a more two-step direction this time around, but you know, it works on some, less so on others. I do really like how they expanded on the synth-pop sound that they were playing with on their debut mini-album, especially when it leads to songs like Tick-Tack. I mean, that's just incredible. But even songs that I do like I'll Like You, Cherish My Love, they kind of feel like watered-down versions of stuff that they did on their debut mini-album. Other tracks like If You Know You Know also go a bit too far into the sort of generic territory of contemporary R&B for my liking. However, again, we have songs like Pimple and Tick-Tack that are trying to refine what they've done before, that are trying to do some new things, and like, I haven't heard chiptune in a K-pop group since fucking Cherry Bullet, so I love that. Again though, my biggest complaint is something that has plagued K-pop in the modern era kind of a lot. It's just that a lot of these songs show up and then they end. I feel like a lot of these songs have a lot of really good things going for them, but they just needed to be fleshed out further, whether it's by runtime, whether it's by influence and instrumental. Like, they're always doing something really good. They have a strong core root of a track, but then the song just ends. You know, I think this is a pretty solid mini-album, but if they took those ideas further, it would have been a lot better. Overall, this mini-album was just more Illit. It's what they do well, for better or for worse. And at the end of the day, even if some of these new ventures aren't as strong, it's still very cute and fun synth pop, and I do think this is still a pretty strong outing overall. All that being said, I'm feeling a light 7 on Illit I'll Like You. Of course, we do stuff to talk about album covers on this show, and this album cover is pretty good. It definitely has that sort of bright and summery feeling. It fits the more organic and sort of warm, natural sounds on this project, I think. The group in general tends to focus on the members kind of having a good time amongst themselves, and I think this is another pretty solid example of that. It feels a bit more like photography oriented, which I always did appreciate about Illit's sort of covers and stuff like that. I thought this one was pretty well done. It goes to a little artsy territory, which they're not afraid to go as well, so I thought this is a pretty cool album cover overall. But of course, those are just my thoughts on Illit's second mini-album. What did you guys think? Do you think this was an improvement over their debut Super Real Me, or is this kind of just a little underwhelming compared to how fresh Super Real Me felt? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to be like me. I don't know what that means. But until the next one, farewell.